buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Hey everyone, getting ready for Thanksgiving travel. Well, I know you're probably already thinking about the weather and how it might impact your plans, so we're doing a deep dive into AccuWeather's latest forecast for Thanksgiving week. And let me just say, it's not looking pretty. We're talking about a massive coast-to-coast storm system that could really throw a wrench in things for millions of travelers. We've got snow, rain, and even the potential for severe weather all mixed into this one, so buckle up. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a wild week for sure. And what's interesting is this isn't just a few scattered showers here and there. This system is going to evolve as it crosses the country, starting as a major snow event in the west and then morphing into something quite different as it reaches the East Coast.
So let's start out west then. AccuWeather's calling for heavy snow in the Sierra Nevada, enough to potentially shut down I-80 at Donner Pass through Tuesday night. If you're driving that route, you might want to seriously reconsider your timing. What does that kind of snowfall mean in terms of overall impact?
Well, first off, we're talking potential avalanche risk in the Rockies. Skiers, if you're headed that way, definitely check avalanche forecasts and make sure you've got all your safety gear. It's also important to remember that heavy snow like this can mean major travel delays and road closures.
And this is just the beginning, right? This storm is set to move eastward pretty quickly, bringing snow to the Rockies by Wednesday. They're forecasting up to 50 inches of snow in some parts of the Wasatch Range and the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, 50 inches. That's a lot of snow. But for those of you flying into Denver, don't panic just yet. They're predicting a few inches, which is manageable for a major airport like Denver International. The bigger question is how the storm system will change as it picks up moisture and energy moving across the country.
Because what starts as a snowstorm out west could become a whole different beast by the time it reaches the East Coast.
Exactly. The storm's intensity and track will be crucial in determining what happens next. A stronger storm means it'll shift further north, and that could mean some major changes in the types of weather we see.
Okay, so looking at this map, it looks like the I-70 to I-80 corridor from Illinois to Ohio and then up into northern New England are the areas most likely to see snow. What about other major cities further east?
Well, there's a band of uncertainty that stretches into Pennsylvania and New York. Those areas could see a mix of rain and snow with higher elevations, probably seeing more of the heavy snow. But the storm's track could shift north. And that could mean the difference between a bit of rain and a full-blown blizzard for places like Boston.
And how about New York City? What's in store for them?
Right now, it looks like they're in for a pretty soggy Thanksgiving with heavy rain and temperatures in the low 40s. Not exactly ideal for watching the parade.
So much for those classic fall photos in Central Park.
Yeah, I think you'll need more than an umbrella for that.
Right.
Speaking of less than ideal conditions, we also need to talk about the South. From Wednesday night into Thursday, the area from Louisiana to South Carolina could see some severe thunderstorms.
Severe thunderstorms. What does that mean specifically?
Well, we're looking at strong wind gusts that could cause downed trees and power outages. There's also a potential for heavy downpours, which could lead to some flash flooding. And depending on how the system develops, there's even a slight chance of a brief tornado.
Wow, that's definitely something to keep in mind, especially with all the extra traffic on the roads for the holiday.
And don't forget the fog. Dense fog combined with heavy rain can make driving incredibly dangerous, especially during a busy travel period like Thanksgiving.
So it sounds like we need to talk about some practical tips for navigating this potential travel nightmare.
Absolutely. There are definitely some things you can do to stay safe and minimize the disruptions to your trip. But we'll get into those in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've got a pretty clear picture of just how messy this Thanksgiving storm could be. But knowledge is power, right? So let's talk about what people can actually do to stay safe and minimize the disruptions to their Thanksgiving travel plans.
Yeah, absolutely. The good news is there are definitely things you can do to prepare and make the best of a potentially tricky situation.
So let's start with those who are hitting the road. What advice do you have for people who are planning on driving to their Thanksgiving destinations?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say flexibility is key. If it's at all possible, consider adjusting your travel dates to try to avoid the worst of the storm. Even just shifting your plans by a day or two could make a huge difference.
And what if that's not possible? What else can drivers do to prepare?
Well, it's really crucial to be prepared for delays. So pack some extra snacks and water and things to keep everyone entertained, especially if you're traveling with kids. And make sure to check those road conditions frequently.
Where's the best place to get those updates?
The AAA and state transportation departments are great resources for real-time info on road closures, accidents, and weather-related delays. Oh, and it's always a good idea to let someone know your travel plans and your route, just in case something unexpected happens.
That's always a good safety tip, regardless of the weather. Now, what about those who are flying? What should they be aware of?
Staying informed is absolutely essential for air travelers. I'd really recommend downloading your airline's app and signing up for text alerts. That way you'll get notified right away about any flight changes or delays.
And it sounds like packing a healthy dose of patience might also be a good idea.
Oh, absolutely. Imports are always crazy around Thanksgiving. And weather delays just add to the stress. So remember to breathe and be kind to the airline staff. They're dealing with a lot.
And while we're on the topic of packing, any specific packing tips for air travelers?
It's always a smart move to pack a small carry-on bag with all your essentials, like medications, toiletries, and a change of clothes, just in case your checked luggage gets delayed.
That's a really good point. Anything else people should keep in mind when it comes to their luggage?
Yeah, make sure your luggage is clearly labeled with your name and contact information. You might even want to add a brightly colored ribbon or tag to make it easier to spot on the baggage carousel.
All right, so let's say you've made it to your Thanksgiving destination, but then the storm hits hard. What advice do you have for staying safe during the actual storm itself?
If you're driving, the most important thing is to reduce your speed and increase your following distance, especially if there's any snow or ice on the roads. And if you can avoid driving at night, visibility can be really bad during storms, making it much more dangerous to be out on the road.
And what if you encounter really heavy snow or whiteout conditions?
If that happens, it's really best to just pull over to a safe location and wait for the storm to pass. It's always better to be delayed than to risk an accident.
That's really good advice. And this might seem obvious, but it's worth repeating. Never try to drive through a flooded roadway.
Right. You never know how deep the water is or what the condition of the road is underneath. It's just not worth the risk.
So we've covered driving during the storm. What about tips for staying safe once you're actually at your destination?
It's important to be prepared for potential power outages. So charge all your devices in advance and have flashlights easy to find. And if you're using a generator, make absolutely sure it's properly ventilated. Carbon monoxide poisoning is a serious risk.
And what about food and water? Should people stock up in advance?
It's always a good idea to have a supply of non-perishable food and water on hand, just in case you're stuck inside for a longer period of time.
And if you're traveling with young children or elderly family members, are there any additional precautions people should take?
Yeah, it's really crucial to be extra vigilant about their safety and comfort in these situations. Make sure they have appropriate clothing for the weather conditions and that they have access to any necessary medications.
It's so easy to get caught up in the stress of holiday travel, especially when there's bad weather in the mix. What's the most important thing for people to remember in all of this?
You know, it's Thanksgiving. Even with the potential for travel headaches and weather disruptions, it's important to focus on what truly matters: gratitude and connection with loved ones.
Couldn't agree more. A little flexibility, a positive attitude, and a focus on what's important can go a long way in making this a memorable Thanksgiving regardless of the weather. Now, in the final part of our deep dive, we'll step back and look at how this storm fits into the bigger picture of climate change and what it might mean for the future of travel. So we've talked a lot about this Thanksgiving week storm, where it's headed, how it might impact different parts of the country, but we always like to go a bit deeper here on the deep dive. This specific storm is one thing, but I'm kind of curious. What does it tell us about the bigger picture when it comes to climate change and the future of travel?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think this storm is a perfect example of how weather patterns are becoming increasingly unpredictable. And this is something we're going to see a lot more of as climate change keeps impacting our planet. You know, we can't really rely on past weather data to accurately predict what's going to happen anymore.
So how does this shift towards more unpredictable weather actually change the way we need to approach travel planning? It seems like flexibility is more important than ever.
Absolutely. I think that's a key takeaway from all of this. We need to be a lot more flexible with our travel dates and be ready to change plans at the last minute. We might also want to start thinking about travel insurance that specifically covers weather-related issues.
That's a good point. And do you think it's possible that we'll start to see a shift in the types of destinations people choose? Like maybe travelers will start to favor places that are less likely to have these extreme weather events.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. We're already seeing people getting more and more interested in sustainable travel and ecotourism. And I think that trend is only going to continue as people become more aware of how climate change is impacting different parts of the world.
Seems like technology probably has a role to play here too.
Oh, for sure. Those advanced weather forecasting models are getting more and more sophisticated all the time. And we're seeing these new real-time travel updates and communication tools, things that can help us stay ahead of the game when it comes to weather disruptions. Imagine like an AI-powered travel assistant that can analyze weather patterns and assess travel risks. And then it can automatically adjust your itinerary to try to minimize any disruptions. I mean, it might sound like science fiction, but I think it's closer than we realize.
That's pretty mind-blowing. So it sounds like individual preparedness is also going to become even more important in the future.
Absolutely. We all need to be more weather aware and educate ourselves about the potential risks of different types of weather. And it's important to have a plan in case of an emergency.
So what does that look like, practically speaking?
Well, packing for a wider range of weather conditions is always a good idea. Having emergency supplies ready to go is another important step. And staying up to date on local weather alerts and knowing those evacuation procedures is also key.
You know, this Thanksgiving storm has really been a wake-up call, hasn't it?
I think so. It's definitely a good reminder that weather is a powerful force. And it can have a big impact on our lives, especially when we're traveling.
But it's also a chance for us to adapt and become more resilient and to learn how to use technology and knowledge to our advantage.
Well said. As you gather with your loved ones this Thanksgiving, I really encourage you to use this storm as a conversation starter. Talk about the changing climate, the challenges that come with it, and what we can all do to navigate a future that's becoming more and more unpredictable.
And remember, even amidst the storms, there's always so much to be grateful for. Safe travels, the warmth of family and friends, and the opportunity to learn and grow from these experiences. That's what makes this time of year so special. Stay safe, stay informed, and stay curious. We'll be back next week with another deep dive. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Sound